Hi, it's Robin. I've got here the SpectraVideo CompuMate computer keyboard for Atari VCS and Sears Video Arcade. This was released in 1983. The box contains the CompuMate keyboard unit, built-in 16K BASIC program, built-in Magic EASEL paint program, built-in Music Composer program, interface cord fits any standard cassette recorder, comprehensive user's manual, no additional power supply needed. And on the back of the box here, it promises to turn your Atari VCS into a powerful personal computer. So that's what we'll be looking at today. Is it true? And they go into more detail here about the basic programming, full power unit with 16K built-in ROM and 2K of built-in RAM. That's expanding the Atari 2600 from its built-in 128 bytes of RAM, 1/8 of a K. A 42-key sensor touch keyboard. With it, you can learn to write your very own programs and get a fine introduction to the popular, important, BASIC, all lowercase language. You can run many existing programs available from SpectraVideo. I think that's a flat-out lie. You can store all your programs by attaching to any audio cassette recorder. All necessary cables are included. Also talk about the music capabilities, 2 channels, 2 octaves, can simulate the sound of piano and organ, 4 built-in demonstration songs, writing songs, playback, editing the song, tempo. Songs can be basic on standard cassette tapes. I have no idea what that means. The graphic capability, built-in Magic EASEL program, 10 different colors. And of course, the Atari 2600 actually has 128 more or less. Pictures are drawn by using keyboard controls. What a feature. Up to 6 pictures stored in memory for animation effect, 2 built-in demonstration pictures, and the pictures can be saved on standard cassette tapes. Songs can be basic, pictures can be saved. And it's as easy as 1, turn the power off on your Atari game console. 2, plug the controller cords into the joystick sockets. 3, put the CompuMate on the game console, insert the cartridge into the slot, turn on power, and you are ready to go. Okay, let's give it a try here. So before we install it, or whatever, attach it, just so you get an idea of what it looks like just on its own. So here is the keyboard. And it has 1 cord hanging out of it, and it also has 2 3.5mm jacks that are labeled ear and mic, and that's what runs to your cassette recorder, or nowadays you can just hook it up to your computer. I'll be hooking up to my laptop. Somewhat curiously, along the back, it's got this area, which actually looks like it could accept a cartridge or something, but there's not. It's just plastic in there. I'm curious if that was planned for some sort of future expansion. And there's no other ports on it. There's the back panel. You can see my serial number 14614. I don't know how many runs of this they did, but that would indicate that there's at least 15,000 of these made, of course, assuming that they actually start at serial number 1. Who knows? And that 1 cord runs into this, which is an Atari 2600 cartridge. Kind of neat enclosure. I think the SpectraVideo is a great name, and I love their logo. On the underside, they have SpectraVideo. What do you call that? Not engraved, but, you know, it's there. Typical Atari 2600 edge connector, just like all their cartridges. But this part's not like a normal Atari cartridge, where the 1 cable from the keyboard runs in and 2 more run out. And they are labeled left and right. They run off to 2 9-pin joystick cords. Okay, I'll get my Atari. Here's the Atari 2600 I'll be using today. It's a 6-switch model. I think what's called a light 6. Not one of the original heavy 6 models. It still has the lovely wood grain and the Atari logo there. And it still has all 6 switches on the front before the cost reduced it down to 4 switches and just put cheap little toggle switches on the back to replace these difficulty switches. Those later systems look a lot the same, but only have 4 switches on the front panel. Okay, so the keyboard just drops right down on top of the Atari. And because of these edges here, and the edges here on the Atari, it fits in really nicely. Hardly goes anywhere. It's on there pretty good. Then the cartridge part swings around here. Hey, the cord runs around. Cartridge plugs in. Feels like that cord gets bent pretty tight, but apparently that's just how it's supposed to be. Okay, and then the right and left joysticks get plugged in. Power's already plugged in there. And that's the regular RF video out, which we'll be using today. Yep, RF video. I'm sure some of you are thinking this keyboard looks an awful lot like the ZX81, or here in North America, the Timex Sinclair 1000. So here I've got mine. So I've got the whole actual usable keyboard on screen there, and you can see how much smaller the Timex Sinclair keyboard is. But it is of a very similar material, except that the CompuMate has slightly raised keys, little bubbles in there, while you don't really feel those as much on the Timex Sinclair. And kind of the disadvantage of those bubbles, like I was talking about on my Commodore Max video, is that you actually have to be a bit more precise where you push the button. Like you got to find the center of that bump and then push it down, while you don't have to worry as much about that on this membrane. I mean, both are terrible keyboards. At least the CompuMate does give you more room. It's not nearly as crowded, but it's not really a whole lot better. And just a better look at them at the same time, you can see that there really are some striking similarities, such as the fact that the keyboard just, like the top row, just has the numbers 1 through 0, exactly the same here. And then Q through P, and both offset half a key. And then A through L and Enter, exactly the same here, except the SpectraVideo does have the extra function key here. And then Shift in exactly the same spot, Z through M on both. And the CompuMate sticks a comma key in before both of them get the period or full stop, and the space key conspicuously in the bottom right corner. So yeah, a lot of similarities, but as far as the extra function keys and so on, quite a few differences as well. That we'll see later. Okay, here we go. I'm going to hit the power button and see if it works. There we go. Okay, so here is the CompuMate booted up, and we get the OK prompt, and we're in its BASIC. Oh, before I forget, shout outs to Simon McCullough and Erwin Vandenberg, who both talked to me about this expansion and wanted me to make a video about it. So here it is. Thanks for your interest, guys. Okay, so it is a BASIC. Now, I've seen many claims that this is Microsoft BASIC. I have my doubts, and we'll get into that more later. One notable thing is that I didn't see any reference in the packaging, the manual, or here on the unit itself or on screen that says Microsoft. And you can be sure that by 1983, Bill Gates had learned his lesson and insisted that Microsoft be properly credited. But this is also a very, very weak BASIC. It is missing an unbelievable number of features, which we'll look at in a while, which makes me think it's just kind of a homegrown version. The only actual source I could find for the Microsoft BASIC is one ad, and I'll show that on screen, and that appears to be a prototype version before this was even sold. And it does say Microsoft BASIC there, but as we know, things change, and for whatever reason, probably cost cutting, I don't think it shipped with a Microsoft BASIC in the end. Okay, so just to very quickly write some sort of basic program, 10, So you can type in line numbers, but it's just only line numbers 1 through 99 are valid. You cannot use the question mark as a print, like we do in other basics. To backspace, you have to hold down Function and then press the space key to delete or backspace. And you cannot type print in full either. You must use the one-button tokens, kind of like on the ZX81, but it's not quite as smart as that. So if we hold down Function and press P, it has PRT above it. And that funny little thing, that's essentially the print command token. It doesn't display print in full. It just says PRT. But that's the print command. And then we'll hold down Shift and get the quote. For whatever reason, it's up above 0, not over 2 or where we might normally expect it. And we'll type in print hello space world. And you see it's already wrapped around to the next line. That's because this can only do... Whoop, that didn't work. Shift, quote. There we go. Print hello world. This is only capable of displaying 12 characters per line. Yes, even much worse than the VIC-20. I'll press Enter. And 20. And I don't have to put a space there, but I will. Function G gives the go-to token. And go to line 10, Enter. And to run, Function R will display run, and then we'll press Enter. And there you go. Hello world. And Function B is the break command. Break at 20, OK. And Function K brings up list, which suspiciously is in the same spot as the ZX81. And you saw how much the screen was flickering there. That's going to happen a lot. The CompuMate is dependent on the Atari 2600 video hardware to generate its image. In fact, that's kind of the whole reason. People probably are already asking why. Well, the idea would be that if they can produce this keyboard and cartridge and the tape interface, but leverage the CPU and video hardware of the Atari 2600, then you might end up with a computer that you can sell for cheaper than the competition to all the millions of people that had an Atari 2600 in 1983. Maybe you could even end up with a better computer than the Timex Sinclair 1000, which sold for $100. This apparently was targeted at $80, although I've heard selling prices anywhere from $180 and of course a lot cheaper as it got discounted when it didn't do so well. So anyway, that's the idea here. Okay, we'll come back to the BASIC in a bit. But if we hold down the Function key, we were in what they call the text mode, suspiciously not called the BASIC mode. Text mode, we're going to press the button beside it that says Graphic. And now we're in graphic mode. And this is that built-in Magic EASEL program that was mentioned on the box. And this is not BASIC. This is a separate standalone application. You can see on the keyboard here are some arrows. If I press E, now the screen's going to flash each time I take a step. You can move that cursor around the screen. And if I press J, which also says Draw, now I'm in draw mode, and now as I move, it will leave a trail, just like an Etch-a-Sketch program or whatever. I can even hold. Sorry about the flashing, but it just does that. Okay. What am I going to draw by accident? What is that? I don't know. Okay, and there's also an erase mode. So if you press K, then wherever you move the cursor, it will erase it. It'll erase any pixels there. Okay, and kind of a secret mode is if you press space, that will put it back into non-destructive mode, so you can move around and not draw or erase, but just move the cursor around. But for whatever reason, they don't have that labeled. You can also change the color. If you hold down Function, you can choose from the 10 colors up at the top here. So that's changing the background. So I'll go back into draw mode. Okay, and now that I'm in draw mode, I can change the foreground color by holding down Function and pressing any of the number keys. So I notice it's kind of interesting if I go back into if I hit space so I can change the background color. Oh. Whoops. Well, I blew that. That shows you how bad this user interface is. I thought I was about to change the color. I forgot to hold down Function. If you press 7, it brings up this image stored in ROM of a snowman. And if you press 8, you'll get this globe, or map of the world. It's not a globe, is it? The world. But if you press 1 through 6, it shows you the 6 different save slots that are available. But if you accidentally switch between those, which is pretty easy because it's the same buttons that you use to change the color, but if you don't do a store first, then you actually lose everything you're doing. And that's what I just did. Okay, so I want to change the background to blue, and now I want to go into draw mode, and I'm also going to change the cursor into blue. But now if I change the color yellow, you see it's changed everything I drew. That's because even though this says 10 colors, and really the Atari has 128, but it only lets you choose from 10, but actually it's just 2 colors. There's a foreground and a background color, and that's it. That's all this is capable of drawing. Okay, and if I want to store this, I go Function Z, which is store, and then I can press number 1, and that's now saved it in slot 1. And if I go to slot 2, you see it's gone, but back to slot 1, there, it recalls it. So this is actually kind of neat. It gives you 6 frames to draw in, and you can switch between them either automatically with the autoplay button. There it is. You see how it plays music. Or you can just do it manually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's kind of cool. I guess with a VCR, you could be making little 6-frame animations. Okay, and now we'll check out that music mode. So again, Function and music is in red for whatever reason. And here it is. And it's a 2-channel, what almost looks like it's going to be like a tracker, but it isn't. But it has some demo sounds built in. If you press 3, there's like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Some spicy notes there. And it's actually got a few other ones built in. Some interesting note choices there. Okay, so if you see down at the bottom, at the top it says channel 1 and channel 2. And down at the bottom there is a less than symbol, which is doubling for a left arrow. It's currently pointing at channel 1's music. And if you press the greater than symbol, it'll point at channel 2, so that's how you can switch between them. And instead of letter names for notes, they use the do-re-mi scale. So actually it starts down here. with the lowest notes. Okay, so that's 2 octaves. Again, the user interface is a bit confusing. You can change that note as much as you want, but it's still on note 1. And you would think that pressing enter would enter it, but no, you press space and it goes to the second step of your song. So we'll just play re, mi, fa, so, mi, do. And we can play it back with the autoplay button, L. Unfortunately, the cursor doesn't scroll or move while the song's playing. That'd be pretty nice if it did. But if you press function and space, it doesn't erase or backspace. It goes back up the list. And then you can play through just by pressing space each time. And strangely, it put quarter notes in for each of those, but not for this one. But you can adjust the timing of each note. Down here on the bottom row, Z is a whole note, X is a dotted half note. So here we can just change that. And you see how the symbol just changed into a circle with a hole in it? So we can make that one a whole note. Make that one a half note. The dotted half. A quarter. Those are all quarters by default. An eighth. A 16th. Let's hear that now. Pretty goofy. So the manual is actually really terrible for that part. I haven't shown the manual yet, but this is the so-called comprehensive manual. And overall, I'm not very impressed with it. It's only 38 pages in total. Doesn't actually have a reference section, and it even leaves out important details, which they partially rectified by later adding this one extra leaflet with some of the information that they totally forgot to put in the manual. But here in the music section, it talks about changing the duration. Press one of the musical scale keys that appear on the bottom row of keys on the keyboard, which are highlighted here. Those are not called musical scale keys. Those are called note values or note durations. Yes, they go on a scale, but even mentioning scale implies it has to do with pitch. Yeah. Okay, but this is the worst part. Okay, it's using the wrong words. But this is a black book of C128 level awfulness here. If you do not know what the different scale symbols mean, don't give up hope. Experiment. Whatever you do is okay. You can't hurt the computer. You will learn the differences among the scales by attaching different scales to the same note. Again, this is just talking about the note duration. And you will be able to hear the sound that the computer makes after you press the space key. Okay. If you don't know them, don't give up hope. But we're not going to tell you. And they don't. They do not say what the difference is. They don't know, at least the author. The author didn't know and didn't ask anyone. You know, obviously, whoever. Oh. Okay, so I'll tell you. That's a whole note, a dotted half note, a dotted quarter note, a quarter note, an eighth note, and a 16th. And it's a bit goofy using these because there's not even bars or a time signature in this. So what do they really mean? But you would think a whole note lasts 4 times as long as a quarter note, assuming it's 4/4. You know, a half note is 2. Anything with a dot gets an extra 50%. So 2 becomes 3. Okay. At least, well, that's the American system. And that's what we use in Canada. You got funny names in the British system. It's called something like the semi-hemi-demi-semi-quaver or whatever. And somewhat bizarrely, you can change the instrument, but there's just 2. There's a piano sound, which it defaults to, but doesn't actually say. So if you look up where it says channel 1, I'm going to press the J key, and now it says P up there. Because, of course, you press J to get P for piano. And you can also choose an organ. So I'm going to press the K button, so an O will appear because that's the organ. Okay, to be fair, they do have a tiny little picture of a piano and an organ here, but why they didn't use the O and the P keys for that, I don't know. And you can actually change the other voice to piano or organ as well. Now, if you want to add the second channel, if you just see how I cursored over here on step 7, here I'm going to press Do, well, nothing happens. And that's because these aren't really two linked lists moving through time together. They're actually independent lists that fall out of sync as soon as you use different duration notes on the two channels. So you actually have to cursor all the way up using that function space to move up. Then go and put your Do there. Okay, and I could make that like a tiny little 16th note. And Re 16, Mi 16, Fa 16, So 16. Okay, and now if we play it, so you see the second channel ran out of notes. If you heard that, I'll do it one more time. So what's going on is that the second channel is playing its 5/16 notes very quickly. You hear it right at the beginning, it goes doo-doo-doo-doo. There, it's done. And the other song is just lumbering away. So I would find that extremely hard to actually compose for, given that they're not in sync. That would take a lot of coordination, even to write two channels of music that way. Okay, now we're going to go back to text mode, aka BASIC. Okay, so I'm sure most of you are expecting me to write the 10 print program for you. And this is when I have to confess, well, I tried. And I cannot figure out how to do it at all. Like, you know, I can do 10. I can do print. But this is where we start right into the huge limitations of this BASIC. Now, if you look at the keyboard, for whatever reason, they put the regular slash, the divided, up on 4. Or here, let's put it in quotes just so we're proper. Okay, so yeah, I could print the normal forward slash, but there is no backslash here. And you would think, well, it's probably hidden in the character set somewhere, like most BASICs have some sort of backslash. Well, this BASIC doesn't even have a character string function. There doesn't seem to be any way of printing a particular character by number. Maybe the only BASIC I've ever seen, except, well, some calculator BASICs don't have that either. That's a severe limitation. In fact, if you start looking, there are almost no functions at all. This is the whole language as far as I know. I haven't found any secret commands or tokens to bring up. So there are actually no string functions at all. Like, it's hard to believe. And there's actually only, maybe 2 numeric functions? There's random, so we could at least get a random number. And there's an int function, which makes an integer of a float. It'll truncate any decimal fraction, but that's it. All the other commands, that's it. So while this does have strings, it has absolutely no string handling functions, has no characters, it has no arrays. It's an extremely disappointing BASIC. That Bally BASIC I looked at on the Astrocade a while ago, that is way better. and even the BASIC built into the ZX81 or Timex Sinclair, this is way better. Like, just look at all the lovely functions there. It's called the math functions, exponents, you got sine, cos, tan, you got plot commands, you got your string functions, character functions, you got poke. This doesn't have poke, square root, value, not. It just like freeze that if you want to ever look. This has so much more. This BASIC is an embarrassment of riches compared to the CompuMate. Yeah, so no mid-string function. I was going to stand here and tell you all the things it can't do. It's like, I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to do something like A. Yeah, and a lot. Okay, that's right. We want to go, watch this. Function let A shift equals on 5 for whatever reason. Random. And then it only has these, well, these should be round brackets, but they look like square ones here. And then random 1. Now press enter. 20. And then function if A. But you see, it displays int instead, as if I was holding the function. That happens lots. Anyway, okay, stop complaining, Robin. If A equals 0, then print, right? But what am I going to do? There's no slash. I'm going to print a less than symbol. Enter. 30. If A, no, if int, do it again. If A, then it works the second time, equals 1, then print greater than symbol. Okay, now I want to put a semicolon after, but unbelievably, this does not allow it. That is the print command. You can't even stop a new line from being printed. Every print starts on a new line. It's unreal. And comma doesn't work. I tried. Well, comma just lets you have a list of things to print, but each one still goes on its own line. There's no colon. You can't put multiple commands on one line. Okay, 40, go to 10. Enter and run. Oh, it went to fa. Run. There is your 10 print. So I just can't believe that this is Microsoft Basic, that, like, it's just so bad. Oh yeah, variable names. Okay, you can only use the letters A through Z, like single letter variable names. They are hard-coded where, let's find that. Okay, the instruction let is very important. It's followed by a letter of the alphabet. This letter is called container. Well, it's really a variable, but how does it use containers? The manual insists on calling variables containers. It says variable one time and all the rest. Why do computers use containers? Like, you might as well at least teach the word variable. Okay, and so here, the names of the containers that hold only numbers are A through P. So yeah, it's hard-coded. A through P are all your numeric variables, no arrays, and Q string through Z string are your only strings, but you can't do any manipulation on them at all. Yeah, like they're just constant strings is all they are, as far as I can tell. Okay, break, list. Okay, so if we add a line 35, just if you don't believe me about the print thing here, I'll go print, quote, and I'll just put like a dot there. No, what am I going to do? I'm going to put a minus sign in the maze, right? Well, so the one-dimensional maze. Okay, but yeah, no semicolon. So here, let's add a comma after. Run. Now you see, a comma just created a blank line, an extra blank line. This really is the most useless BASIC I have ever encountered. Thoroughly unimpressed with it. Yeah, there's no logical and... Oh yeah, there's no Boolean operators, right? You can't go, okay, print. Okay, like if you print 5, it's okay. Okay, so here you go. Print 5 equals 5, right? And if this was Microsoft BASIC, that would return -1. But no, you get error 6. Oh yeah, and the appendix is useless. Like there's no reference section except the error codes. Invalid expression. What you type doesn't mean anything to CompuMate. Check your spelling. You know, there's the errors if you want to pause there. There's no go to on. Just all the tricks we use to make BASIC like fun and capable. That's not here. Okay. New. I did find a couple slightly interesting things like line 10. After a let, you can actually do multiple things. So you can go like let A equal, let A equal 5. And then if you put a comma, you can actually do extra operations. You can make more assignments. This is a way of actually crowding more stuff into a single line. But you can even do like a bit of math here. So you can let A equal 5, and then you can even do an operation on it, like A equals A plus 1, right? And then line 20, print A, print A. Okay, and then here, run. See, it printed 6. So we define A as 5, and then we incremented A by 1. And then, so it was 6. So that is one tiny little saving grace in this BASIC, is that you could actually do an assignment and then do a bit of math. You could kind of juggle. It doesn't have to just be one variable either. We could have incremented B or something. So we can do a little bit of extra stuff. There might be some way of exploiting that. Okay, and one other thing is that there's this input command, function input. Okay, I'm going to input B, which would just get like a single number from the user. But you can also do a list of variables here, input B, comma C, 20, and then print B plus C. Okay, so we could have like a little calculator here, run, right? So it's question mark prompt. So I'm entering 3 and question mark prompting for the second value and 4, and it should print out 7. Yep, 7, okay. We'll run that again. And this time I'm going to put 3, comma 5 as a single input, and it should print out 8. Yeah. So for how horribly, like all the corners they cut in this BASIC, it's weird that it can handle that. That's, you know, it's nice, I guess. Okay, but new. Okay, but while I was digging around this BASIC, I found at least one really bad bug. You don't have to do this in a program mode, but I think it's a bit more impressive. 10, if we just go let, and then whatever, let B equal A. But if we add a dot to the end, like a period there, okay, enter. And if we run that program, it completely melts down. It crashes. It's toast. Like you can't break, right? Totally dead. Even the Atari reset switch doesn't work, because really that's just like a software thing. So Got a power cycle to get out of that one. Oh, yeah. When it boots up, it plays this music. You can interrupt it by pressing a key. That's a horrible reminder that this has no music or graphics commands built in. They're in that separate program, but they are not accessible from BASIC. And it's like it taunts you that when you start the computer up, it plays that song at you in the background, but there is no command in BASIC to play a song. That's just, it's horrible. But why did they think that playing the song in the background is a good idea when you can't even do that in BASIC, except, you know, like the programmers were able to in assembly language? Oh, yeah. So anyway, that crash is bad. No arrays. Okay, and that claim says on the box that this is a 16K BASIC. What? Like, get out. 16K BASIC. I mean, Commerce 64 BASIC is 9K. Right? ZX81 BASIC is 8K, I think, right? Probably including the operating system. This is not a 16K BASIC. Okay, so I am certain that this is a 16K ROM in that cartridge, but it's 16K for BASIC and the drawing app and the music app. I hope you don't mind me. Killer app, you know, that's been around longer than Apple iPhone apps. Application, that's what I mean. Okay, so you got the music, the drawing, and the BASIC, and those demo songs, and those demo pictures, that snowman and the map of the world. Okay, all that, plus the display kernel, which is actually a lot of code to display those bitmaps and this text mode. Okay, that is what's 16K. Not the BASIC. Oh. Okay, and that would be the advantage. This thing potentially would be competitive with the Timex Sinclair ZX81 because this has the color, you know, it's got the music. Those things would put it above the Timex Sinclair, which is just black and white, no audio at all. But it's not accessible from the BASIC anyway. So the one thing that this could do well, it doesn't. Okay, so at the end of the manual here, just suddenly, like, they're just in the middle of telling you how to, like, change lines and not explain a bunch of other commands. And then suddenly it's done. Note, there's much more to the BASIC computer language than could possibly be utilized by your Atari VCS, even with the help of CompuMate. Okay, get out. While CompuMate provides an excellent introduction to computers, there's much more to computer programming, art, and music. When you have played with CompuMate and feel that you want to step up to a more powerful personal computer, SpectraVideo will be waiting with its SV-318. The SV-318 is your gateway to the world of practical and affordable personal computing. Okay, so yes, it's true that an Atari 2600-based computer could never show you everything BASIC has to offer. Yes. But this could be much better. So I don't know if it was just cost cutting, if they deliberately sabotage this to make their own SV-318 look better, or if they had bigger ambitions for this and like marketing wanted to place it like lower, or they just ran out of development time or cartridge ROM space or different priorities. I don't know. I know this could have been better. Would it have ever been great? No, but it could have been better. Okay, this is already a really long video. If you want to see more SpectraVideo, just please leave a comment, letting me know, because there is some software for this that I haven't gotten into. It's not great, but it exists, and we can go through that and maybe explore the BASIC a little bit more on this. If you want to, if you've seen enough, then please let me know that too. Okay, thanks to my patrons for their support, especially Simon for being so patient waiting for this video to come along, and Erwin, thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.